Do you ever feel overwhelmed by the ever-changing world of technology? Tech It Out can help make some sense of it all. Breaking down geek speak into street speak, technology columnist, author, and TV personality Mark Saltzman covers consumer technology each week for every listener. Mark tackles the latest news, reviews, and how-tos to help you understand what's hot, what's not, and why.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Tech It Out, episode 92. Hope you're having a wonderful Easter, or maybe you're celebrating Passover, or maybe just the fact that it's a long weekend. Either way, enjoy it. We do have a stellar show planned for you this hour. In a moment from now, we're going to learn about an upcoming computer game that focuses on mental health issues of your characters, which is very unique. Also on the show, we'll learn about a device to help fight back against distracted driving. Also, this hour, we'll talk with someone who could explain cryptocurrency to us, like Bitcoin in plain English, and the technology that it's based on, blockchain, all in a language we can understand. All of this and more coming up on Tech It Out. Okay, let's start the show. With the upcoming game Destiny's Sword by Two Dogs Games, the developers are implementing something called Combat with Consequences. Unlike other online games, where you're usually just responsible for managing the team and its abilities and the stats, in Destiny's Sword, you'll also be challenged to manage the mental health of your team, as they may, after years of conflict, suffer from issues like PTSD, depression, anxiety, and addiction. Joining us to explain this very interesting game mechanic is Ken Hall, CEO of Two Dogs Games, based just north of Toronto. Hi, Ken. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on, Mark.
Sure. Now, before we talk about the mental health management component of the game, which I think is very unique, tell us, if you will, a bit more of a high level, what Destiny's Sword is all about.
So Destiny's Sword is a massively multiplayer online game, which basically means it's a shared universe where up to tens of thousands of players are all playing at the same time and experiencing the same events together. Effectively, it takes place in a science fiction universe where two factions are fighting over resources on a planet. And we're looking at the story of how that conflict is not just affecting the participants that are involved in the day-to-day battles, but how it affects them long term.
Yeah, that again is, I think, the most unique component of this game. Before we get to that, so it's an MMO, or a massively multiplayer online game, as you mentioned. So you're playing against other people over the internet rather than the game's artificial intelligence in most cases. But is this a fantasy role-playing game? Is it a strategy game? Is it more action-oriented? I think it's strategy, right?
Yeah, it's a strategy combat game. That's right. And while the player can manage the events that happen, they can't actually dictate the action specifically. The characters have their own individual personalities, and that's something that plays out through the combat. So your role is a squadron commander of your group of troops, and your job is to guide them through their combat careers. And
is the perspective of this game mostly like a top-down or isometric angled top-down view, like many other strategy games?
Yeah, it's a third-person view, and you'll be able to sort of swing that all around the battlefield so you can have good situational awareness and see what's happening to other teams, because it's a really social game that's designed to encourage cooperation and teamwork. So, working together, coordinating with other players, and making sure that all the characters are working together cohesively is a big part of the strategy in the game.
And like games like Fortnite and Apex Legends, do you communicate verbally mostly? Is that how you would flesh out those tactics?
Yeah, so there's a whole aspect. There's verbal communication. You can also, there's a chat, facility, so you can type to people if you're not capable of verbal communication or don't want to participate in that whole, basically all the raft of communication tools that are open to players.
All right, Ken. Now, I read that your goal is for players of this game to gain empathy for their characters as they shepherd them through recovery of these mental health conditions that I mentioned in the introduction, like post-traumatic stress disorder. I don't think I've ever seen that before in a game. Can you talk to us a bit about that?
Yeah, so basically the game itself is really all about, bringing people together. So, most games focus on a power progression where, as a player gets better, other players sort of get worse by comparison. So in our game, it's really about how much you can, contribute to the group and elevate those around you. And that translates all through the gameplay. Basically, the theme is when somebody succeeds, we all succeed. So players are rewarded for their empathic responses to emotional and mental health issues affecting controlling their characters. They're rewarded for cooperating and collaborating with other players. And there's in-game consequences for ignoring these issues. It's really all about creating bonds.
Mm-hmm. So walk us through what we might see or read during the game that would hint at some sort of mental health disorder or some condition within the group that would force you to make a decision one way or another.
So certain times we'll have characters who have, experienced traumatic issues. Maybe they got caught in a major explosion. So when they're in combat and a subsequent major explosion goes off, it may, from the gameplay point of view, the effect is to potentially stun that character, but effectively they're getting caught up in their flashbacks or sort of possibly getting caught up in a panic attack. So basically, you'll see that issue on the battlefield. The other characters in the squad will try to assist that character to talk them back into it, to sort of get their focus back on the battle at hand. And then after the combat, we're able to interact with those characters and figure out, okay, what happened? Is this something that was a one-off that we just need to sort of be aware of, or is it an ongoing issue that's something that you actually need to dig deeper in and encourage the character to seek treatment, that sort of thing.
Fascinating. We're chatting with Ken Hall, CEO of Two Dogs Games, a Canadian game developer working on an upcoming MMO, or massively multiplayer online strategy combat game called Destiny's Sword. This is, again, something that I haven't heard of before. Was it you that came up with the idea, or who was it at Two Dogs Games that came up with this game mechanic, and what was the impetus for implementing something like this?
Well, it's very much been a team effort for sure in terms of designing the actual mechanics that'll realize this this sort of message that we're trying to get across. But at the same point, I've been in the industry for over 20 years, and a couple of my previous projects, I did B-17, which was a historical flight simulator based on the famous bomber from World War II. And we did a lot of veteran interviews at that time, and we realized that all the media we'd consumed, the books we'd read, the movies we'd watched, only dealt with a few seconds these guys were pulling the trigger, and not how they made a bigger life in this environment over the course of 5 years, and how they got themselves back on those aircraft every day, knowing that some of them weren't coming back, that kind of thing. And I then went on to interview a bunch of British Sherman tank veterans and create an audio book of their experiences. And I was interviewing these guys at 80 years old, and they were still waking up on the floor just weeks before in their bedroom, and their wife would say, "What are you doing down there?" And I'm trying to get out of a burning tank. And it's so this just the realization that these experiences last forever, that these people, it's not just something that goes away over time. And I felt we really needed to have our entertainment do a better job of depicting that.
Mm-hmm. And I guess it is a tricky balance, because you want the game to be entertaining. After all, it is something that we're spending money on, and we want it to have fun. But it's interesting that you tackle these issues as well. So I'm really curious to see how it plays out. So Ken, I understand you've got some partners on this project. Please explain.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely we know how to make games, but we felt we really needed some expert guidance as we started to approach the mental health and combat related issues. So we partnered with some amazing groups, which include Take This, who are a games-based mental health charity. Their clinical psychology team is helping to advise us. And Spartan Wellness, who are a veteran support organization. Their veterans have been fantastic, sharing their time and their stories and helping us to really kind of get the experience across in a respectful and unique manner. And also helping us is the ALDA Communication Training team. And they're basically the nonprofit arm of the Alan Alda Center for Communicating Science. And their mission is to promote empathy and communication in science and medicine. So they're really helping us to kind of develop that empathy with some really good strategies.
I'm looking forward to this game, Destiny's Sword. What's your ETA on it? When are you expecting to release it? And is it for the PC?
So we're a year through development right now. We're hoping to launch our open beta in March of next year, March 2020. And it will initially be for the PC through Steam, but we'll be porting to consoles fairly soon afterwards, because we want to get as many people playing as possible. So cross-platform play is a really important objective of ours.
Okay, so it's still a ways out. Interesting, Ken. And what's the best website to learn more about Destiny's Sword?
Best way to find out about Destiny's Sword is to check out the website, www.destinysword.com, and that's with 2 S's.
All right, destinysword.com. The name of the developer, again, is 2 Dogs Games, and that's the number 2. Congratulations, Ken. Keep up the great work.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Mark.
All right, so as I mentioned, in a few moments from now, we're going to learn all about cryptocurrency, everything you've wanted to know, but we're afraid to ask, with an author of a book that demystifies this technology. And after that, we'll learn about a product called SafeHomePod, designed to help curb distracted driving. All of that is coming up on Tech It Out. But first, a thank you to ASUS, the title sponsor on this program, creating technology for today and tomorrow's smart life. Visit asus.com/US/radio for more info on their stellar products. That's asus.com/US/radio. And at that website, you'll be able to check out their award-winning laptops, desktops, monitors, smartphones, tablets, smartwatches, and gaming gear under the Republic of Gamers, or ROG brand, which is super hot right now. So again, asus.com/US/radio. Thank you to ASUS for your support. And I look forward to chatting with ASUS next weekend on Tech It Out when they come on the show to talk about what's new in 2019, specifically for gamers. I don't want to spill the beans, don't want to give away too much, but they do, I believe, have a lot coming out if you're into computer games. And I know many of my listeners are, and that's why our first guest talked about a different twist where you are responsible for the mental health component of your team. Very interesting stuff. We'll be right back with more Tech It Out. Stay with us.
Listen to Tech It Out whenever you want. Find the Tech It Out podcast at iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Tech It Out. You've probably been hearing words like cryptocurrency and blockchain for years now, but you might not be 100% sure what the hype is all about and if it's warranted. And so who better to chat with than the author of an upcoming book, What is Cryptocurrency? A Simple Guide to Understand, Get Set Up, and Profit from Bitcoin, Blockchain, Ethereum, and more. Joining us on the line is Cahill Puil. He is the author and the founder of a company called Byte Media Group. Welcome to the show, Cahill.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks for having me on.
Could you think of a longer name for the book, maybe?
You know, that's actually really true. But I think those are all the main things that people want to know when it comes to, well, what it really is cryptocurrency all about.
Yeah, it's awesome. And we'll get to that in a moment because I wanted to invite you on to the show to demystify this space. Before we do that, though, talk to us a bit about Byte Media Group, and that's Byte, B-Y-T-E. Tell us about the company.
Right. So we help founders, C-level executives build their profiles and become thought leaders in their space. The whole reason why we do that is often the founders and CEOs, CTOs, et cetera, they're focused on building their business, building their product. But really, if you're trying to attract more investment or more business or move forward in the industry in an impactful way, you really have to get your thought leadership out there. And so that's what we do for emerging tech companies.
Awesome. So you specialize in the C-suite execs, and that sounds good. Okay, so now let's dive right into cryptocurrency. Please explain what this is. And I believe Bitcoin is an example of cryptocurrency, correct?
Yes, you're absolutely right. So cryptocurrency is, I'm going to make a couple examples. Cryptocurrency is an application that sits on blockchain technology. So it's similar to saying Facebook is a company that lives on the internet. So same kind of thing. So that's what cryptocurrency is. And it's really, in the most basic form, it's a way of transferring money between two people without a bank involved.
Right. So it's a decentralized global currency.
Think about it like this. I'll do it in an example. If I want to send you $100, right now, we've got to have someone verify that I have money in my account, that you actually have a bank account, and that I have not spent this $100 somewhere else. And so right now, a bank does that. So bank will do all those checks and balances. Mm-hmm. Now, when I send you that $100, the bank looks through, does Cahill have money? Has he spent it before? Does Mark have an account? Yes. Great. The money gets sent over. Okay. If I want to send money without a bank, well, who's going to do that verification. How does that work? Well, this is where cryptocurrency and blockchain come into play. So there's actually computer programs that have been built to do those verifications automatically. So you don't need a bank, you don't need someone in the middle, and just from computer programming, we can verify, well, does Cahill have $100 in his account? Yes. Has he spent it before? Nope. And does Mark have an account on this cryptocurrency network? Yes. Great. Let's send the money from Cahill to Mark. And that's all done with computer programs.
Right. And the blockchain is like a digital ledger of sorts that confirms that the payment was made. So it's withdrawn from your account and then deposited into this account, this new account, right?
Absolutely. And again, if we look at what happens right now, banks have a ledger that they work with, right? That whole verification of accounts, this is what banks are doing. And they have this massive record, massive database of all your transactions. Well, on the blockchain, the digital ledger does the exact same thing. And once a certain number of transactions are reached, or there's a certain time has passed, that gets, we'll call it, stamped into a block of information. Mm-hmm. And then each block of information gets connected to the new block, and on and on and on. And that's why they call it a blockchain. So it's just a chain of ledgers connected together.
But what's wrong with the way we've been doing it now since, let's say, the birth of the internet, where I'm with Bank of America, you're with Capital One, I wirelessly or electronically rather send you $100. It's taken out of my account once it's cleared and it's deposited into your account. Is it because there are some fees associated with that? Like, why use something like Bitcoin when our banks can do this electronically today?
Mm-hmm. Well, you did mention one of the problems. One of the problems are fees, right? If I were to send you an e-transfer, it's going to cost me $1.50. There's other banking fees associated with that. Now, that's fine maybe if we're both in Toronto or both in Canada. Okay, that's no problem. But as soon as you start to go international, and I want to send, for example, you're in Hong Kong and you've got a Hong Kong bank account, and I want to send you a wire transfer. Well, now all of a sudden the fees to do that spike up to $35, $40, $45 for one transaction. And on top of that, there's a lot of time delay because each bank has to do all those verification processes. Right. Does Mark have the $100? Yes. Has he spent it before? No. Okay. Does Cahill have an account? Blah, 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 blah. All right. And so this takes a lot of time. So the blockchain can actually eliminate that middleman. Mm-hmm. It can get rid of them completely. The network does it through those computer programs, and it can happen almost instantaneously anywhere in the world with very, very low fees for just about any amount in that transaction. Like you can go from $1 or half of $1, 50 cents to millions of dollars, and the cost is the same. Not to mention, we're all talking about a global currency too. If I send Canadian dollars to Hong Kong or the US to the UK, absolutely, it's now has to also convert into the local currency. So this is keeping it standardized across the globe. We'll continue our chat about cryptocurrency when we return on Tech It Out. You're listening to the Radio America Network. I'm your host, Mark Saltzman. Hang tight. We'll be right back.
Want to follow Mark? Google him. Mark with a C and Saltzman with a Z. Breaking down geek speak into street speak. This is Tech It Out. Tech It Out with technology columnist, author, and TV personality Mark Saltzman.
Welcome back to Tech It Out. We're chatting with Cahill Puil. He is the founder of Byte Media Group and the author of the upcoming book, What is Cryptocurrency? A Simple Guide to Understand, Get Set Up, and Profit from Bitcoin, Blockchain, Ethereum, and more. I think people get confused with Bitcoin, for example, because of the mining component, that if you have computers generating these coins, like people are like, well, wait a sec, how do you make money from nothing? Could you explain that part?
Sure. So we used our banking example, right? The bank being the middleman who's verifying the transaction between us. Okay, well, in the computer programs or on the blockchain network, who verifies the transactions? Well, there's miners that will process this data. And so what has to happen on a blockchain network is everyone has to agree. Every main group of ledgers has to agree, and those are called master nodes. It's not something that you really need to know about right now, but everyone has to agree, 100% agreement. Well, to get that agreement, you have, we'll call them miners, that actually do a cryptographic function. They process this to verify if the transaction is authentic or if it checks out. So again, who's verifying that $100 that I have it in my account, that I have not spent it before, that Mark has an account? Well, a miner will verify that, and a miner gets a small fee for that. And so this is how miners make money. So they're acting kind of like the bank, but they're making fractions of the amount that a bank does. Like a bank will make billions and billions of dollars every year. A miner will make fractions of the transaction that you're sending.
Got it. Let's chat a bit more about blockchain. How do you think this could be used in other industries outside of the financial industry?
Great question. So we've talked about how it works in the financial industry and eliminating that middleman, aka the bank. Well, you can take this to any industry where you need to have trust between two parties, but they don't fully trust each other. Like maybe I don't fully know the other party that I'm interacting with, and I need to have someone in the middle to help me verify that person. Well, this is where blockchain really does a fantastic job, because again, it's built into the computer programs. Okay, so what industries would work like that? Well, you've got something like a supply chain, or if you're doing shipping and logistics, or let's say I'm ordering a product from a manufacturer in India or China. Well, I've never actually been there, and I don't know if they're going to send me the product. Well, blockchain can now come into the mix, and as soon as they have certain checks that have been fulfilled, well, then my money automatically gets released, and they can trust me and I can trust them because we trust in the network. Yeah. And so those are some areas. And then as well, anytime you want to have records and transactions that cannot be tampered with. So think medical records, identification, government transactions, all of these can be put onto the blockchain as well, because again, every block of information is chained to the newest block of information. So you get this very long, big chain of info. And in order to change one piece of information, you have to go all the way back and change everything. Because again, everyone in the network has to have 100% agreement that this data is checked out.
Awesome. And then finally, let's wrap up on a bit about your book. When is it coming out, and tell us a bit about it?
The book is coming out in May. That's the target right now. And it's really for anyone who is trying to understand what cryptocurrency is all about. Like, what are all these terms that we're talking about? What's a master node, a transaction code? How do things really work? If anyone's interested in investing or purchasing Bitcoin or Ethereum, like, we talk about that. And if you really want to get into some of the nitty-gritty details about, okay, well, what's mining all about? Or what is the technology behind cryptocurrency? We talk about all of this. And I really wrote it. It sounds funny, but I wrote it for my mom, because my mom came to me at the height of Bitcoin, when it was trading around $21,000 a coin. Right. And she said, "Should I invest my money in this?" And I said, "Mom, you really have to understand some of the terms, and it's not that hard. It's just going to take you a little bit of time, but I would not do it right now." And I felt like she wasn't the only one thinking that. Everyone's seeing people get wealthy, and you want to participate, or you want to feel like you have got the knowledge to be able to take your destiny into your own hands. And so this is why I wrote the book, to give you that knowledge so that you can make your own decisions.
And what's the best website to learn more about the book and your work with Byte Media Group?
You can just go to whatiscryptocurrency.io. So it's all one word, whatiscryptocurrency.io. And there's a sample chapter that you can download for free, so you can take it for a spin if you'd like. And there's a pre-launch discount as well. And then if you're interested in any of the services we offer, it's just bytemediagroup.com. So that's BYTE mediagroup.com.
Cahill, thank you so much. Good luck with this book. It sounds great. I'm going to need it. So I'll have to visit that website to order one. And thanks so much again for your time. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Mark. And I'll get you a copy. No problem.
Thank you. You're listening to Tech It Out on the Radio America Network. Thank you for tuning into the program this weekend. And if you like it, if you like Tech It Out, or you think your friends, family, or colleagues would get a kick out of it and maybe learn something in the process, which is what I'm hoping for, feel free to send them the link to the podcast. You can subscribe for free, of course, and every time a new episode is live, it can be downloaded to your favorite digital device, be it a smartphone, a tablet, or a laptop, for example. And all the major platforms are supported, like iTunes, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Stitcher, Spreaker, and others. As promised, when we return, our next guest will teach us about SafeHomePod. This is a device for the car to help curb distracted driving. You may be surprised to learn that distracted driving causes more accidents and deaths than drinking and driving in 2019. So hopefully this product can live up to the hype. Any help it can offer is welcome. And before we go to this short break, I do want to thank my sponsor again. Tech It Out is powered by ASUS. They are the title sponsor on Tech It Out, creating technology for today and tomorrow's smart life. Visit asus.com/US/radio for more info on their stellar products. That's asus.com/US/radio. And they will be my guest next weekend, by the way, on Tech It Out, when I talk with them about some new products that they're going to unveil for 2019, specifically for gamers. We'll be right back with more Tech It Out.
Breaking down geek speak into street speak. Tech It Out, hosted by Mark Saltzman.
You're listening to Tech It Out on the Radio America Network. Thanks for joining us. Here's a sobering fact. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration says that texting while driving can be 6 times more dangerous than drunk driving. And this is particularly more concerning for parents, as virtually all teens have a smartphone, at about 95%, according to Pew Research Center, compared to 60% of teens who say they consume alcohol. While in this case it sounds like technology is the problem, but perhaps it can also be the solution with a product like SafeDrivePod. Joining us on the line to explain what SafeDrivePod is all about is the owner of the company, Paul Hendricks. He's on the line all the way from the Netherlands. Thanks for your time, Paul.
Hello, Mark.
All right. So let's start right from the top. What is SafeDrivePod?
We invented a solution, and what we say is a closed solution for smartphone distraction in traffic. And our solution works for bicycles, for bikes, for cars, for trucks and buses. It is a closed solution, so what we do is we close the screen while driving or while biking. So everything what is not allowed by the law, we fix, and everything what is allowed, let's say hands-free calling, that is allowed also with our solution.
And how do you go about that? I believe the key word in your name, SafeDrivePod, is the pod element. Maybe you can talk to us about that.
Yeah, because to solve the problem, there are a couple of phones in the market, and you have, of course, the iOS versions, but also you have the Android versions. And the problem, of course, is the iOS versions to close the phone directly, and that's why you need an extra device. But there are also more advantages to use a pod, and that is at first that we know that you are in your car or on your bike, and not in a taxi or in a bus, because then you are totally free to use your smartphone. So it detects that you are in your car. And the second thing is that because of the vibration of the pod, we see if people are moving. So we don't use any GPS, and that's because of the privacy. And we see all kind of apps also in the market. But at first, they don't close an iPhone. And secondly, they always use GPS. And we only see in the vibration of the car if somebody is moving. And when you are moving, we close the screen.
All right, so I was going to ask you, why not just use an app to detect if the vehicle is moving, because there are sensors inside of a smartphone that allow you to do just that. But you've explained the 3, I guess, reasons why a small pod, which is only the size of like a quarter, if I'm not mistaken, is required to go on the windshield. So one is that iPhone is a closed operating system, so they don't allow you on the operating system level to turn off the screen with an app. Secondly is that the phone doesn't know if you're in the back back of an Uber or a Lyft or a passenger, so it may turn your screen off when you are allowed to use it. And thirdly is that for privacy reasons, you said you're not using GPS tracking. So that explains why you need a little piece of hardware, which is this pod that sticks to your windshield. And that communicates with the phone, though, correct? It still works with a Safe Drive Pod app.
Yeah, that is connected. Yeah, exactly. We have a Safe Drive Pod app. You need the pod, and we have the dashboard. The third part is also very, very important because you need a certain regulation or control. But when the pod is in the car, otherwise, on an app, you always have a button that you could say, I'm not in my car, or I'm a co-driver, or whatever. And what we see is that people always will misuse it. And that is not because the problem of the people, but we are all addicted to the smartphone. And that's what we need to admit, that we are addicted. So the solution also needs to be a solution that solves an addiction. Because otherwise, we see a lot of campaigns about distracted driving around the world that we talk, don't do it, etc., but everyone is doing it, and we can't blame the people, but we need to help them that they don't grab to their phone while driving, because it is not allowed, but it is also not safe.
All right, so the idea behind Safe Drive Pod is a small quarter-size sticky pod that attaches to your windshield. It detects movement, and then it tells your phone screen to turn off, so you can't access it. What, though, happens in case of an emergency and a loved one calls you while driving? Are you able to take the call, or are you fully blocked?
Now, you have a hands-free set, I hope. That is in every new car at this moment.
Right.
Yeah, so that is no problem. We also have the possibility for an SOS button on the screen. So with the SOS button, you can always call 911 or whatever. But even that red button that is on the screen, we see that people misuse it. So it is in default off, but it is a possibility to put it on. And for some customers, we do it on, and the most customers choose for no SOS button because everyone misuse it. And that's also the evidence that people really are addicted, and we want to help them also with the gamification in the app and in the dashboard to get better behavior.
I'll ask you about the gamification element in a moment, but I want to remind our listeners we're chatting with Paul Hendricks. He is the owner of Safe Drive Pod. It's also the name of the product that helps drivers drive safely by removing distractions, i.e. your smartphone. So talk to us about this incentive to not touch your phone. Maybe we call it in the industry, as you said, gamification, the ability to level up or to earn something as a reward for performing a task, or in this case, not performing a task. Talk to us about that.
Yeah. Now, what we do is you get a score for your behavior, and a 10 is very good, and a 0 is not so well. Everyone starts with a 10. But if you play too much with your system, and that is pushing the home button, for example, while driving, so that is a negative score. Switching off Bluetooth, it is the same, or remove the app. But what we want is that people see their own behavior, and that's in the personal score. But also you see, for example, when it is for fleets, you see you as a team, but also for families.
When we return, we'll continue chatting about SafeHomePod, a way to curb distracted driving. We'll be right back.
Follow Mark Saltzman on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. Listen to Check It Out whenever you want.
All the way from the Netherlands, we've got on the line Paul Hendricks. He's with Safe Drive Pod, and he's teaching us about this product that's designed to help curb distracted driving. Now, before the break, Paul, you were talking to us about this family option of the app.
Yeah, so you can make an appointment also with your children to say, okay, if you behave well on the bicycle, I behave well in my car. And there is also a certain game inside your family. We give insight to the dashboard, but it is up to the customer to make a rewarding model.
All right, so the app itself isn't linking you to redeem those points. It's up to the person to reward someone or a team. As you said, Safe Drive Pod also works in fleets. I know there's a business angle as well for business owners to install this in trucks and cars and vans and so on. But it's up to you to incentivize or reward them for not touching their device. I got it. Understood. Just my second last question, Paul. I have in my vehicle CarPlay and Android Auto, as many vehicles have today. So when you connect your smartphone, the screen does go dark. And then you can only access it through the speech button on the steering wheel or on the touchscreen dashboard. Why would somebody want SafeDrivePod instead?
That's a very good question. But first, let's say Apple CarPlay and Android Play are normal working. So because that's allowed by the law, that's no problem. Why do people want to help themselves? That's a very good question. I think that only 5% of all the people, everyone knows that they are addicted, but to let your help, I think that will be 5%. So there has always be someone, and that could be a parent or an insurance company or a leasing company or your boss, that make an appointment with you. If you have good behavior, we reward you. But the main goal, what we need to realize, is that we want to have the people safe from A to B, safe to the job and safe back home. And that's what we need to realize. I know we are selling handcuffs, but we also need to realize that it is an epidemic problem at this moment. 1 out of 4 damages are related to the smartphone. It is not only in Europe, it is in the US, it is everywhere.
Right.
And it is still increasing. So we don't have any choice, but it was the same in the 70s with the seatbelt. And I think this is better than the seatbelt, because when you don't use your seatbelt, sorry, Mark, but that's your problem. But when you are playing with your smartphone while driving, you are a totally problem also for the people around you in traffic. Yes. And that's what we need to realize.
That's a great point, Paul. All right, so final question. How much does SafeDrivePod cost, and where can we learn more, such as ordering the device as well?
That's a very good question, Mark. What we do is we want to have the price as low as possible. With the fleet customers we have and the insurance companies, we talk about volumes. But let's say we talk about €1 per month, but we charge upfront, and we get the pot. It is a very small pot, but we guarantee for 4 years of use of the battery. So you don't have to charge it. You don't have to stick it in there's a battery inside.
Right.
So you get the pot for 4 years, and let's say we charge around 55 euros, covered everything, no monthly rates, that's it. And what we want is we want to save 1,000 lives, and making all kind of constructions that are financially very attractive, but that is not about the cost. The cost is we want to save the 1,000 lives, and it should be available for everyone.
Okay, so 55 euros is about 60 something US dollars, and about 70
for 4 years.
And about 75 Canadian dollars or so.
Yeah, and that's for 4 years. The only price, that's for 4 years.
I understand. And then the app is free to download from the App Store?
Yeah.
Okay. And what's the best website to learn more, Paul?
SafeDrivePod.com. They can find all the information, and I would say join SafeDrivePod because we have a mission.
All right, yeah, and that's a bold one at that. I saw that on your website about saving 1,000 lives by next year. So hopefully it'll even be more than that. But that's ambitious in and of itself. But Paul, thank you very much for your time, and keep up the good work with what you're doing. We can use all the help we can get, as you know. So thanks again.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Mark.
Well, I hope you enjoyed this special long weekend edition of Tech It Out. Maybe you're driving around to different family events tied to Easter or Passover. You might be attending a Seder. Regardless, you can listen to the show again as a podcast on demand on the internet, or share it with friends, family, and colleagues. My website is marksaltzman.com/podcast. So that's Mark with a C, SALTZMAN.com/podcast. And that's where you'll see all the different platforms that you can subscribe to the podcast to, like iTunes or Google Podcasts or Spreaker or Blog Talk or TuneIn. You get the idea. A big thank you to ASUS, the title sponsor on this show, creating technology for today and tomorrow's smart life. ASUS, for those in search of incredible. Visit asus.com/US/radio for more info. That's asus.com/US/radio. I'm wishing you all a great rest of your long weekend, everyone, and we'll speak with you next time on Tech It Out. Ciao for now.